Morning, everybody. It's Wednesday, March 16th. This is the Senate Agricultural Committee. And this morning, we're going to start the morning off in regards to hemp and cannabis, maybe get into that a little bit with former State Senator John Rogers. He's from West Glover, Vermont, and operates a farm and hospitality business up there, don't you, John? Can you hear us, John?
I'm sorry, Senator Starr. I am having some trouble hearing you, and I don't know if it's my connection or what. Everybody's coming in perfectly clear, but it's breaking up a little bit.
Yeah, well, we thought we would get comments from you in regards to the hemp stuff, as well as the cannabis bill that we pushed out for small producers, small growers, they call them, and how that's going to work.
Excellent.
In a normal operation.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Senator Starr. And thank you all for having me. I did send Linda a little printout. I don't know if you folks had ever seen it, but one of the biggest problems in the hemp industry right now are the new USDA regulations, which are changing the way hemp is going to be tested. And as you see in the article that I sent, the 0.3 THC mandate was originally established in 1976 in Canada by a couple of horticulturists. And when they did the test, they used leaf matter from the lower part of the plant, which is some of the weakest plant material as far as medicinal purposes, cannabinoid levels on the plant. And now with the USDA new rules, they're going to be taking the top 5 inches of the cola, which is both our most profitable part of the plant, but it is also the strongest part of the plant in cannabinoid level. And so what this is going to do is eliminate most of the good strains of hemp that Vermont hemp farmers are planning on growing. And as we've been over before, and as I'm sure the committee knows, we've lost a tremendous number of hemp farmers in the last year, because the prices dropped. I just got an email from a guy looking for some biomass, and he was offering $1 a pound, which is far less than you can produce it for. So this is just one more challenge, and I'm beginning to wonder why I even bother paying the $500 fee and being part of this program at this point. When I was in the Senate, I supported the new cost. When we first started, it was $25 per farmer, and I think we really need to seriously think about going back to that, as the revenue from the farmer end is so pitiful at this point. I think we're going to continue to lose hemp farmers in the future, and quite frankly, we really don't receive any service for that $500. Was when we built them a big, beautiful new lab that they were actually going to be doing some testing in other things for the hemp farmers, and that was going to be what our $500 fee was going towards, but that's not happening. And so what I would ask of this committee, and I know that we're after crossover, time is getting short, but what we really need to do is, if we can't get the feds to change the testing regulations, then we need to try to get divorced from the feds, just as we are doing with the adult use cannabis, and set up our own program, maybe even under the Cannabis Control Board. Because if we want to be a hemp state, and you know, quite frankly, people like myself have invested huge sums of money
Uh-oh.
You're dropping off, John.
based
Can't hear you.
Maybe turn your video off, John?
on the
Can't hear a thing you're saying, John.
well,
Well, one word, well. Can you shut your video off and see if that'll let your sound pick up? Yeah, there, maybe. That's internet service in the Northeast Kingdom.
Yeah.
Almost as bad as where the one you have where you live. Right?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're getting Western Rutland
He's
County.
gonna
doesn't
call
it?
in by phone.
Okay.
So he wants to try to put the control under the Cannabis Control Board. I didn't think they wanted that.
They don't.
But I'm surprised that that lab isn't doing hemp testing. What even, gosh, we got millions into that one.
Yep.
Maybe you could call him, Linda.
I don't know how to do that.
Oh. He
He
does,
has the link.
huh,
He has the phone number
right here,
for here.
but we don't have his.
I don't have his phone.
Well, the, well,
I hope he's trying to call. He just emailed us he's gonna call by phone. So maybe he's frozen there, but he's calling by phone.
he has the number in this room or
He has the number to call in.
for this.
Yes. It went with the invitation.
Can't be his phone. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have his phone number.
I have his cell phone. I have his cell phone, but I don't know if that'll.
Yeah, I think I used to have it too.
You wanna call him and see what he's doing?
Yeah, maybe I got his cell number. I don't know if it's on that old list or not.
Yeah, I gotta work on the homes.
Hi.
I gotta work on a home.
You want me to just put you on speaker on my phone? John, can you talk?
I can talk.
Can people hear me? If we shut the door, it'd be
Yeah.
better.
Can you crank that up?
That's as
louder?
high as it goes. John, can you,
You want me to speak up, Corey?
Yeah, a little.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure where you lost me.
Somewhere near Glover.
Yeah, I've been lost here for ages.
Well, we heard about possibly start thinking maybe that the hemp industry ought to be controlled by the Cannabis Control Board instead of where it is, and that you weren't getting a very good bang for your buck with the Department of Ag and doing any testing for you.
Right. The testing is extremely expensive. And there again, following the new USDA guidelines is gonna make it more expensive, and it's gonna make it so we can't grow a lot of the good strains that we've been growing. So I'm afraid we're gonna lose more hemp farmers. And the sad thing is, the feds seem to be completely incapable of passing anything. So I've contacted our federal delegation several times about the issue, and still nothing's got done, and it's time for us to plant our seeds this year. And so I'm just not even sure what to do, because we've got some cultivars, some strains that will stay compliant, but they produce about half the CBD that the good strains that we've been growing produce. So we've got to grow twice the number of plants to get the same amount of CBD.
Yeah. And where
you just dropped off.
you should see these double
I'm
round.
back.
Yeah,
Better.
yeah, we can hear you.
Have you got a landline, John? I think he's gone again.
Must be he's not getting service. No, you just tried calling, but it dropped too quick.
Was that a cell phone you called?
Yeah.
Yeah, we want to try this landline. Okay, I bet you that's the number that's been changed. You want to try to call his landline? 525.
What's the committee phone number? He just texted me a text.
The number he needs to call, let me just tell you, is 1301 715
Okay, so on 1-301-70
715
715.
yes 8592.
Okay.
Yeah, it didn't come through very quickly.
John?
Good morning, it's me again.
Yeah, I just text you the phone number. If you could call that one, would call into the committee.
Okay, I'll do that.
Thanks. Bye.
Oh, I ran into Schneider, Michael, yesterday, and he said he'd like to come in and do a little presentation on that issue of the 10-acre parcel of land into old forest growth and what that's all about.
Current use and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he he was telling me that if they don't, the tree huggers don't fool with it, that it's probably not too bad, that a lot of those parcels that would qualify are already in current use. But he said they want to go a lot further with it, and he's very questionable on what might happen to it in down the hallway, and he said he'd like to come in, and so I told him that I, have Linda try to set it up with his people.
Good.
He's got a little slide, it's a little slide presentation.
I'm back.
And hey, we can hear you now.
Well, now technology's great when it works.
Well, maybe. Costs a lot of money, John. We got a whole building full of people looking after that now.
Well, I thought you had a whole building full of money.
Well,
Going fast.
yeah, it's disappearing on us. I think there's a back door to that building. But anyways.
Yeah. Anyway,
Did you got more comments on the hemp issue and
well, not so much on the hemp issue. That was pretty much my spiel for this morning. Is just trying to make it so we don't lose all our hemp farmers and they don't lose all the money that they've invested, which is substantial. But then the one other thing related, I don't know if any of you have heard, but in New York State, they're actually giving hemp farmers priority in their new adult use cannabis regulations. And the one thing that I mentioned to James Pepper was the fact that I had just barely gone through a background, and what a pain in the butt it was. Ended up taking most of my day, and it has a little cost to it, but not terrible. But you got to go to some police agency to get your fingerprints done, and you got to go on the computer and do your filing with the FBI. And it seems kind of silly to make our folks who've already been through it once and paid for it to be part of the hemp licensing to have to go through it again. So if you guys got that bill back, I was wondering if there was any way to make it so the ag agency could share the fact that we've already passed our FBI background check, so we didn't have to go through it again if we apply for one of the adult use licenses.
now would it be the same type of check, John?
Yep, it's going to be exactly the same kind of FBI background check.
And what about how often do you have to renew that?
Well, this is the first time we've ever had to do it. And again, it's a result of the new USDA regulations, which I think are mostly ridiculous. This is the first year we had to do it, and it looks like we're going to have to do it every year that we apply for a hemp license. So it would stink if, somebody like me had to do it twice every year if I was going to keep growing hemp and grow adult use. It seems like a silly exercise, a waste of time and money when I've just gone through it.
Well, the license should be able to be used for whatever purpose, I would think, once you pass the check and you've been issued, what do you get, a number or something?
Well, so what we have to do when we get our background check from the FBI, we have to forward that envelope. So I can't even open my own background check and look at it, I have to send that sealed original document to the ag agency, and I don't know if they just check it and throw it out, or they check it and keep it on file, or what they do. You would have to ask them. So, you know, they sent me my license, so I must have passed it, but they have the copy, and, you know, they know what the results are, so I kind of expect that one state agency would be able to communicate with the other as to the results of that check, so we didn't have to go through it again.
Is that a lot different than getting a federal check on being able to buy a gun?
Yep, it's a lot different. That's actually a separate database for guns. That's separated from everything else. This, you actually have to do your fingerprints, send them into the FBI, and they run your background, and then they send their report back to you. With the gun back check, you can actually the registered firearms dealers call in, give that their personal information, and that comes back in minutes, right over the phone, really quick usually.
So you don't
Takes a
suppose
couple
they do a different license for cannabis than they do for hemp?
Well, no, I think the license is going to be different, but it's going to, and there again, you could ask James Pepper, but they're going to require the exact same background check that the hemp farmers all just went through.
That's what my question should have been. So the
Yeah.
two products are going to have the same background check.
Exactly. Yep.
Other questions for John on that?
No.
So as far as the small growers license and that, the requirements that we put on to that, are you all good with that, or are there things that
to tell you the truth,
better?
it looked good. It looked good as it went out to me, as long as the house doesn't mess it up. And I got to get hold of James again, because he said they were going to try to do some stuff in-house through the Cannabis Control Board's rules, because as I pointed out to him, even the farmers are going to need some indoor grow space. And so what I was hoping that we could pull off, whether it's through legislation or through the control board's own rulemaking, is that farmers be allowed to do whatever number it is outside that they sign up for, but also be able to have 1,000 square foot grow space in an ag building that they don't have to go through Act 250 with, because we're already doing it with hemp. You know, where I've got my indoor grow space for my hemp, where I do my starters and I can do my genetic work and all that. It's the same exact plant, so you know, there are really no other different environmental concerns or anything else. And as I pointed out to this committee, and I think this committee knows all too well, that I don't think you're going to have a lot of farmers lining up to go through Act 250.
I thought, and I may be wrong, but I thought we allowed for indoor grow space for the small producers to get their plants started. You know, I thought we had that in the bill.
We did.
I think as it was in the bill, and it may have changed after I talked to you, but I think you had room for starters and stuff, but what we really need is the ability to grow them to maturity, especially throughout the winter. That's when we'll be doing seed production, and that's when there'll be no income from the outside stuff. So it'd be nice for us to be able to do some indoor growing that's not restricted to just starter plants. We need to be able to mature our plants for both flower and for seed production.
Oh, yeah, I don't know if that was in.
No, so you wouldn't be transplanting
Well,
them?
and I think,
Go ahead, John.
I think James said they were going to try to address that portion of it through rules. So I'll check back in with him, and if you guys are talking with him again soon, you might want to check back in as well.
Yeah, it would probably be just as easy to get it through the rule process as it would through the legislature. So, you
Yeah,
know,
I think it would probably. I think it
Go
would
ahead.
probably be easier because there's not quite so many personalities to deal with.
Yeah, and what about, how many small plots can one person have? Do you know?
The way I understand it, you get you got one outdoor grow and one indoor grow, but I'm not, I guess, probably the best one to ask that. But the last time I looked at it, that's the way I understood it.
So a farmer that wanted to have a small grow farmer could only have one small plot, right?
Well, I don't know. You know, I think you can grow the certain number of plants depending on what license you sign up for, but I don't necessarily think you've got to have them all in one spot, if that's what you mean. I think you could probably have a couple different little spots as long as you stayed under that number.
Yeah, well, what I'm thinking about is down the road. Say you grow your small plot for a couple of years and it's going along well, and you know your market grows. So then you want to do a second small plot. If you could do that on the neighboring piece of property, you know, right on the farm, or have you got to move to a different plot of land? I'm just thinking about once you get going and get down the road, you may want to expand that.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. I think the hope is that we can all start here, and if they don't have enough supply, that we can all grow. But the other thing to keep in mind, as with any plant on the farm, you want to be able to rotate your crops. So you don't necessarily want to do it in the same place year after year. My perspective with the hemp, dealing with various pests and diseases, it makes sense to every couple of years move your plants to a different place so that you can cover crop that piece and, you know, put the nutrients back into the soil, but also eliminate the pests that thrive on that plant.
Yeah. Well, are there questions for the committee? No. Anything else, John, that you want to?
Yeah, there's one more issue I would really like to discuss, and that is how we are taxing farm and forest land. And I know this isn't the taxation committee and isn't even the forestry committee, though this committee's done far more for forestry than any other committee for sure. But I've been working out in my forest, finally caught up enough so I could get to the woods. And, you know, we've got the all the various pests that are killing our trees, and I'm lucky my ash trees are still healthy, but I've got hundreds of balsam fir trees that have been killed or are dying from the balsam woody adalgia. And when I'm, as a landowner out there working, this isn't like going into the forest with your skidder and dropping 5 trees and going out. This is picking through the forest, trying to salvage what you can, and trying not to hurt your younger trees so that that generation can come up. And needless to say, it is not a lucrative business. With the cost of diesel fuel, I'd be surprised if you're able to make any money doing it. And back when I was in the House of Representatives, I presented a bill that would eliminate the current use, though current use is better than nothing and definitely has its pluses and minuses. You shouldn't have to sign up for a program for your property to be taxed fairly, and you shouldn't have to have a lien from the state on your property telling you what you can and can't do with it, because wealthy people are going to sign up in that program because they're never going to sell and they're never going to have to sell. But as a landowner and farmer, since I took on this home farm, our payment and taxes are at this point just too much. I started in 2019 when we decided to purchase the farm, working 7 days a week, which I've pretty much done except for maybe a number of days you could count on your fingers. And I'm getting tired. I'm not 26 anymore. And so when I'm done this phone call, I'm meeting with a realtor, doing what I hoped I never would have to do, and that's putting some of our property for sale, a forest that I've taken care of for some 30-plus years. A beautiful piece of property that I hope to pass on to my kids. But between my property taxes and the interest on the note, I'm paying over $40,000 a year. That's almost $20,000 in property taxes and over $20,000 in interest on the note. And I'm tired of working 7 days a week. And the truth of the matter is that land does not require any of the services that the taxes pay for. That land doesn't use roads and bridges, and that land doesn't go to school. And furthermore, with a whole bunch of your colleagues saying that climate change is an existential threat, our land is providing the ecosystem services for everybody that doesn't have land. My land is sequestering the carbon of my family and thousands of other Vermonters. It's filtering water and providing wildlife. This past summer, I had about 20 acres of food plots for wildlife and pollinators. We have a large portion of our land that we do delayed mowing on for the grassland birds, and I've released probably some 100 apple trees over the years that are purely for wildlife. Now, we as stewards of the land are paying exorbitant taxes, and that's really what's crushing me, and that's what's sending me to the realtor. When in fact there should be no tax on that land. Vermonters that don't own enough property to sequester their own carbon and provide wildlife habitat should be paying those of us who do. And so I just wanted to put that bug in your ear because, as I said, I tried to get movement years ago when I was in the House, and for 8 years in the Senate Natural Resources Committee, I tried to get movement, and you see what happened there. And so that's why I'm putting the bug in this committee's ear, because I think this is one of the more productive committees in the Senate, and I'm hoping that we can at least get the conversation started about figuring out a fair way to tax farm and forest land for those of us who are true stewards of the land.
Well, last year we started, and we're gonna expand it this year, paying for ecosystems improvements. So like all the things that, you talked about, hopefully, you folks will be able to apply through the Department of Agriculture and get some help that way. But what it sounds like, your land isn't in current use, John?
My ag land is in current use. My forest land is not. I have a guy coming this summer to do a forest plan on the farm, on the forest on the farm here, and hoping to be able to get it in. But it's just the $20,000 a year in taxes is a lot more money than some of my neighbors make in a whole year.
Oh, yeah, I don't know how many acres you've have, but 20 grand is pretty hard to come up with off from just regular forest land and fields. There's no way you run them for that.
Yeah, no, and that leads to my last issue that I would like to raise, and I raised it previously. But the definition of a farmer, last I knew, I think you still got to make 50% plus of your income on the farm. Is that still right, Senator Starr?
I believe so, or generate X number of dollars from the crop that you are harvesting to qualify, like strawberry growers. They have to generate $2,000 or $3,000 in revenue, and then they can put that plot in.
Yeah.
But
the issue is you take folks like I've known folks over the years that were dairy farmers, and the husband and wife work their butt off on the dairy farm and figure out that they can't make enough money to keep the farm going. So one of them goes back to work, and if they get a halfway decent job, well, then that person is making more money than the farm is, which by that regulation would state that they're no longer farmers. Even though they're doing the exact same work as they were doing before, they actually took on more work, and that's what I feel like we're doing here. We're working the farm, but the farm can't make the payment, so we've all got our outside jobs too. And I think that's it's just an evolution in farming, and as we all know, the dairy industry is not great, and all these little farms that used to be dairy are either getting gobbled up by big farms that are milking tons of cattle and need more feed, or they're getting broken up and developed or turned into estates. And I think that should be worrying to us all.
Well, it certainly is an issue. Chris? Senator Pearson's
Thank
got
you.
a question, Joe.
John, nice to hear from you. Sorry, I was up in House Ag, so I missed the earlier comments, but I believe there is a bill moving and coming to us, and it'll probably go to Senate Finance. Well, it will definitely go to Senate Finance eventually, and I don't know if it goes here or Natural Resources, but it is contemplating applying current use to forest land that is unmanaged. In other words, sort of wilderness land. And so, I happen to think that makes sense for some of the reasons we know. There's a lot of pressure to develop forest land, and forest continuity is important. But all to say, I'd be glad to keep your comments in mind and and see if there are possibilities of, of just how intense the concern you're articulating is, and whether or not we could look at it in our, as finance, choose into this other bill related to the same topic.
Yeah,
Well-
well, thank you, Senator Pierce. The issue with me with current use is, those of us who don't have a lot of money in the bank, one accident, one unexpected, unfortunate event, and my only asset is my property and my equipment. So when you sign up for current use, you're locked into that lien, and that is dramatic for many of us, because as I stated to the committee, I never intended to sell any land, but I'm meeting with a realtor at 10:30, and we're listing some of our property. And if that piece was in current use, I would have to pay what I consider an exorbitant fee to get that out of current use. And so my point in this conversation is the fact that what demands the taxes, what demands the services that taxes are raised for are people. People, houses, buildings, and businesses should be carrying the lion's share of the tax burden. My land is providing ecosystem services for thousands of people in the state of Vermont, but I get nothing for compensation.
I heard you make those points, and as the chair said, we are always trying to get closer to ecosystem payment for ecosystem services. I hope we'll get there.
Well,
Well, and I just go ahead.
go ahead. Well, I was just gonna say, our next crew is waiting to come in.
Okay.
And we could, we could catch up later, or if you have other issues, you could just send an email. But we've got your things sort of listed down, and we'll stay in touch, John.
Excellent. I thank the committee for your time. As always, great to talk to you all. Take care, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. You know how to find me.
Yeah, well, thank you.
All right, take care, everybody. Bye.
Yeah, Bye. Brian, were you
I
here?
just wanted to listen to John. I thought John was gonna be here. I was just gonna say hi to him. but
Oh,
I listened to some of his testimony.
yeah. Did you have anything else you wanted to bring
I
before?
agree with him about current use, that's all.
Oh, yeah.
Save money.
Oh,
I didn't want to interrupt.
yeah, thank you.
See you later.
Well, good morning, Margaret. We're here. We just got done chatting with John Rogers, former senator, on hemp and cannabis and current use and a host of issues. But it's good to see you folks, and would you like to introduce your guests that you have with you this morning?
Yes. So I'm going to have, when they speak, they'll kind of introduce themselves and talk about their businesses. But thank you for having us. This is the Northeast Agribusiness and Feed Alliance. And what we're going to do today is just a general talking about how rapidly the industry is changing. I think you've heard that from a lot of people over this session and the last couple of sessions. Issues, like climate change, science and technology, whether it's the science of our inputs or the science of the equipment that we use. I think I brought you a presentation about the precise technology tractors and how rapidly that is changing for us. And also that regulatory changes are coming fairly rapidly at us with regard to water quality and soil health, et cetera. And all good things. And what we wanted to do as part of our presentation is to just say that we're so appreciative that you set up the Agriculture Innovation Board last year, because it takes a broad view of agriculture as a whole instead of taking piecemeal approaches to regulatory, political, and legislative issues. And we're really, really thankful for that. And I think throughout today's testimony, you'll kind of be able to hear about how rapidly even the business of the feed, seed, and fertilizer dealers are changing, and then also how their customers' businesses are changing. And therefore, having that board kind of take this global view of the legislative aspect of that and the regulatory aspect of that is really, really important for us, so that we have science behind us before we are asked to make some of these big time-consuming changes on our properties. I think all farmers have seen that they've been helpful. Our soils are more healthy, they hold more water. We're not saying that they're not good changes. It's just there's a lot of change coming at us all at once. Our first presenter is going to be Art Whitman, sorry, Art, from Bennington, and take it away, Art.
Good
Thank you.
to see you, Art.
Yep, it's good to see everybody again. I still long for those in-person meetings though, when we can come up there and talk in person, but that's soon to come. So just briefly, I want to describe what the Northeast Agribusiness and Feed Alliance is. It's about over 300 members from Maine through into New York State. These are the everybody that has to do with the feed industry, from the mills to the brokers that buy and sell commodities, to the truck drivers, to the trucking companies. The railroad is a member, and so on and so forth. So of those 300, about 22 members are within the state of Vermont. And this is what all encompasses the support that we as feed mill dealers or feed mill operators need in the future here. So just to give you an idea how fast things are changing, when I graduated from Vermont Tech in '65, I went working for my father, and all we did was just farmers brought in corn on the cob and oats, and we ground them through a hammer mill, mixed some molasses and a little bit of soybean and salt with it, and sent it back to them in bags. Then came the advent of bulk. We started delivering things back in bulk, blowing it into bins on the farm. And then the business of a completely processed feed, whereby it was very apparent that the corn growers in Iowa and the wheat growers in Kansas could produce the products so much more efficient than what we could on our rocky hillside farms. And that left more area to be used for growing hay and for corn silage type of thing. What people don't understand is that the entire feed industry is based on byproducts. Everything we feed to the cow or other animals really is a byproduct from something else. So for instance, the mids are a byproduct of the flour industry. You've got citrus pulp, beet pulp, canola meal and soybean oil meal have already had the oils taken out of it. So this is a product that's left over. And then look at all the thousands of tons of corn that's distilled every day in the Midwest to make the ethanol that we burn in our cars. So if it wasn't for being able to fed to animals, all this would have to be dumped in landfills or done something with. So it's just a point that the feed industry really is getting rid of a lot of byproducts.
Before you get away from that, when they take corn and pull the alcohol out, what is what's left of the corn? Is that used for feed?
That's distiller's grain. That's right. That is distiller's grain. The starches and the sugars have been fermented out of it. So what you have is you have a concentrated protein source, and proteins come in a lot of different shapes and sizes as far as how the cow can use them. And distillers is a big product that we use, and there's obviously lots of it around because of all the corn that's being distilled into ethanol. Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Then we started realizing that, like I said, these proteins are different, and by manipulating the ingredients that we put into a grain, we could dramatically affect milk production And then by taking soil forage samples of all the forages that the farmer has, we then would formulate feeds to augment what they were missing in their forages and that type of thing. And so in 1995, we made a family decision that we needed to build a mill, because otherwise we were just selling somebody's totally processed grain and that type of thing. So we were able to custom formulate for each individual farm. And not only that, we could formulate for each individual herd or a group of animals within the herd on a farm. You have a high cow ration, a mid-lactation cow ration, a dry cow ration, a heifer ration. All of these things are specifically formulated exactly for what we're trying to do. So from 1995 until 2015, when I sold the mill, I don't think there was a time when we weren't constantly making improvements. It was just an ongoing thing. We're always building more bins for more storage of different things. We put in a microsystem that measured out minerals and ingredients to the nearest tenth of a pound. Even bought a gram scale because some of the enzymes we were adding went in by the gram type of thing. And so you say, did this really make a difference? And it certainly did. Cornell did a study of what the amount of nitrogen and phosphorus that was excreted into Vermont dairy by Vermont dairy herds from 1999 until 2019. I don't think we can pull that up, can we, Margaret?
I think Linda does have it and she can put it up for you. That's the N&P page, 2-pager that we sent to you, Linda.
Okay, let me get it here.
And that would be the phosphorus and the ingredients that was shipped in through grain, ended up in the gutter, of course, or manure pit.
Yes, but it also shows how we've been able to formulate feeds so that the amount of phosphorus in those diets is less and less. So we're actually excreting less phosphorus into the environment through manure than in 20 years, we've lowered it by like 31%, which is about 2,600,000 pounds less phosphorus.
That's a big difference.
Yes.
So Linda, if you can scroll to the second page. Oh, sorry, back up just a little bit, right at the bottom of the first page. There you go.
Yes, in the 20 years, we actually dropped almost 21% fewer cows, like 40,000 less cows. But we still shipped only 5% less milk. So we were able to always improving the milk production per cow. We were able to, protein is nitrogen. So if we give a cow too much protein, she excretes it in the form of nitrogen. So we were able to ratchet down formulas from a total of 18% protein in the total ration down to like 16.5, which is a 10% reduction there. Phosphorus, we ratcheted down the amount of phosphorus in the diet by about 20%, thanks to Minor Institute, which did a multi-year study on finding out just how much phosphorus was needed to maintain a healthy dairy cow and to maintain milk production. So we reduced that by almost 20%. So the grand total, as you can see in the total Vermont manure nitrogen per year, we reduced that by 20.9%. And the total phosphorus manure per year is reduced by 31%, which again, I said is about 2,600,000 pounds of phosphorus less than what it was in 1999. So all this technology is making huge improvements, and it's just, but I still feel that the biggest challenge we have is to have farmers grow the most optimum forages that they can, because without those quality forages, all the grain in the world can't do the difference. Some of the reasons for selling the mill was that I just was getting older. The next generation really didn't feel like working 80 hours a week for the rest of his life. My son was working with me, but there was just a lot of complications coming with mandates. Federal government was mandating a Food Safety Act, which was, they were trying to make regulations that apply to the food industry, to the feed industry, which didn't make a lot of sense. It almost requires a company to put on another person to keep track of all that. So didn't stay retired very long. I now have a company that spreads lime and soil amendments. And my problems that I'm facing with this are the same problems that farmers are facing. Labor. It's almost impossible to find a driver with a CDL. We're actually training our own people, type of thing. Inflation. No matter how fast you try to raise prices and stay competitive, it seems like you're always behind. The gas prices went up twice while you're just changing your delivery rates on something like that. Difficulty in finding repair parts, replacement parts and repair parts. They're always scrambling, trying to locate them all across the country and so on and so forth. I just ordered a trailer, another trailer. It's going to be a year before I get it. If I needed another truck, it would be 2 years. Just so we're working with sometimes equipment that should be replaced quicker than what they are. The pollution systems on some of these trucks are not reliable. You're breaking down beside the road and being towed in just to have a small sensor replaced or something like that. It's very frustrating. I think the message that we want to get to you is that we've got to learn to use this and trust the science. This thing is advancing so fast that it's unbelievable. The precision agriculture is a nickname, or is a name that we're kind of coining now. Precision agriculture has what's called the 4 R's, and it either applies to pesticides or fertilizer or whatever you're putting on. The 4 R's are the right product at the right time, at the right amount, and at the right place. They have these corn planters now that precisely put the seed in the ground, put the right amount of fertilizer next to it, so put some more fertilizer on top of it. But if there's a pesticide needed, to also replace that precisely where it needs to be, and all that sort of stuff. And all of these things are so expensive. I know everybody wants to keep the 60 to 100 cow farm, the family farm, and that sort of stuff, but these farms don't generate the cash that is needed to buy this very expensive but very precise equipment that does a precise job, is beneficial in the end. We also need to work on soil health through injection of manure, cover crops, reduce tillage, cover or crop rotation. And I think we don't realize what a great asset we have with the University of Vermont. They are at the cutting edge of this right now. You really should be having Jeff Carter come in and talk to you sometime about everything we're doing at the university to improve soil health. If we've learned anything through COVID, it's the fact that science is so advanced now that we were able to develop a very safe and effective vaccine in a number of months as compared to years. This same type of advanced technology is happening in the dairy industry all the time. My personal feeling is that more and more people are, every generation gets further and further away from agriculture and the understanding of how it really works. I have an antique tractor that I like to take to parades. And of course, somebody in their 60s or 70s and 80s comes up and say, yeah, I can remember I learned to drive on that. I plowed the lower 40 and that sort of stuff. Somebody in their 50s says, yeah, my grandfather talked about something like that. And then somebody in their 20s says, what is it? Every generation is further and further removed away from what agriculture really is. Again, we've really got to trust the science and let the science show us what is the best. Neonicotinoids, I believe, do a safe job if they're applied properly, again, through this precision agriculture. So let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Let's wait for the science to show us how it really works.
Hey, Art, thank you very much for your presentation. We had some custom applicators in, and they were talking about having manure spreaders that they could put a chip in their computer, and it would spread the manure according to the soil test, or spread fertilizer according to the soil test in fields to kind of match up what the soil needed. Have you heard much about that kind of equipment?
That's absolutely true. We can take soil samples using a GPS locator so that we know exactly where in the field we took the sample. That is downloaded, that can be downloaded into a program. That program is then put into the truck, and what you can get now are specialized trucks that have several compartments within the fertilizer, within the body itself. And as the truck goes across the field, it pulls different ingredients out of different compartments based on what the requirements are in the soil, and so on and so forth. Not only changing the rate, but also actually changing the amount of the type of fertilizer or the blend of fertilizer that's being put down. Again, very expensive. All of this stuff does not come cheaply, but it does pay off.
Well, your 4 R's would certainly work in that situation. Yeah.
I'm sorry,
I said that your 4 R's that you suggested would certainly work in an application like that, where it's all precise and delivered right to the field in the right measurements.
That's exactly what the 4 R's are. That's what precision agriculture is.
Yeah. Any other questions, Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So great testimony, Art. Thank you very much. Margaret, it's good to see you. You mentioned that the precise farming, in a sense, I want to say this the right way, disadvantages small farms because of the cost of the equipment. Have you got sort of a ballpark figure about the size of a farm in order to be able to afford that? In other words, I'm very sensitive to sort of, our small farmers throughout the state, and maybe this, while it's a very good thing technologically to keep people, from wasting a lot of stuff, it does disadvantage them to some degree, I would think, right?
Well, custom applicators.
Right.
Yeah. What is ideal is to have a smaller farmer become acquainted with a good custom applicator, but the poor custom applicator can't be every place at the same time, which is a big problem. The answer to your question, in my opinion, once the farm gets up to 1,000 cows, they seem to generate this cash flow enough to keep up with this modern equipment, the corn planters and the spreaders and that sort of stuff. I don't see anything below 1,000 cows being that cash flow available, if that's the right word.
Yep.
As I look at our dairy agriculture though, out in places where it's more flat than Vermont, you can run 1,000, maybe 1,050. Well, 1,000 cow, milking 1,000 cow farm, you've got to have what, 1,800 animals, maybe
Easily.
2,000. And the way our land is shaped and our valleys are and our hills, we can't, you end up like some big farms now are trucking feed 40 miles and 50 miles down back roads to get to their home farm where the animals are housed. And like we have what, 32 or 33 big farms, and that number hasn't changed much in 4 or 5 years. Of course, with the price of milk the way it's been, we're lucky we still got the same number.
Yeah. Yes,
But
that's right.
the middle-sized guys, we've lost 1 or 2 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I also have another concern that I just realized I hadn't mentioned on that, and that is the what is happening, especially in southern Vermont, where we're closer to Boston and New York City, with people coming up and buying up a small farm or some land and that sort of stuff, and they've got a piece of paradise type of thing, so they want to keep it green, and so they'll let the local farmer mow the field, but oh my God, you can't plow it up and put corn because that means there's going to be pesticides. So all you got to do is just keep taking the hay, but don't put any fertilizer on because that's a chemical. And so the farmer is left with the only way he can keep increasing the yield on this field is by putting some manure. And my God, that's a problem too. So I just see people not realizing what farmers have to do to maintain production and so on and so forth. One of the soil amendments I do spread is dried chicken manure. And that has its own, a very unique and strong smell that lasts 2 or 3 days. I'm just afraid that if there isn't a right to farm law or something like that, that people will be telling us we can't spread certain things in certain areas.
yeah.
Bobby, we've got 2 more presenters that I'd like to get to before our time runs out. We're supposed to be over in the house at 10:30. So I thank you so much, Art, for your presentation. We're going to move on to Stuart Hall, who's going to talk about his business now.
Yeah. Morning, Stuart.
Good morning, gentlemen. Stuart Hall, originally from down the road in East Montpelier, Vermont, from my family's dairy farm, Fairmont Farm. That's where I grew up and went to University of Vermont, graduated with an animal science degree, and currently working for Phoenix Feeds in New Haven, Vermont. Phoenix Feeds is right off Route 7 at the intersection of 17 there in New Haven. It's co-owned by David Santos and Craig Newton, established back in 2004. Currently employing 63 people with 2 feed mills, the main one in New Haven, and then another pelleting mill down in Brandon, Vermont. We're selling organic and conventional feeds and operate 26 trucks and are delivering feed in all New England states and New York State. So that's a little bit about Phoenix Feeds. As Art said, you know, our main business is bringing in commodities. We also bring in whole shell corn and grind it. The corn we're bringing in doesn't have any neonics on it, just so you know, it's not planted. Yeah, I think I just want to briefly talk about some of the main concerns that we're facing at Phoenix as well as in the dairy industry, which you're all aware is the majority of agriculture in the state of Vermont. I think some of the primary concerns we're seeing, of course, are labor, getting drivers, as Art mentioned. I think any support we could get with help for these young people that want to get CDLs is very important. Ag labor, as we're all aware, I mean, where would our industry be right now without Hispanic labor? I think any H-2A programs that could be available to Vermont that the state could help promote would be a great benefit long-term. That's going to be a big issue. And as well as succession planning. From what I see, talking with our customers and looking around the state, and I'm sure you folks are all aware, you know, there's going to be a big generational shift, right, in agriculture. We've got, you know, the primary stakeholders in our state are people my age and older, and looking to the next generation and how that's going to be passed along. Really for the future of agriculture in the state of Vermont, what are we going to do? And who's going to be the face of agriculture in the future? How can we support that going forward? I think that's a huge issue. And the big one today, and what everyone is talking about, is what we're looking at for the price of our inputs and costs coming up this next year. And of course, I think it's going to be for the future. I mean, Art was talking about inputs for fertilizer and seed. And, you know, we're all aware of the water quality issues. I guess the good news could be that, hey, these inputs are going to be, what are they talking? Fertilizer, 80% more, possibly this coming year. It's going to be precious thing. And our farmers need to apply it correctly and properly and keep it in place, right? That's a huge issue. And on the grain side, the same thing. I'm sure Mike will talk about, Mike Thresher, who's after me, will talk about the pricing that our organic farmers are seeing for their grains. It's the same on the conventional side. The grain pricing is going up. I'm sure you folks are aware if you watch the commodity markets at all. Soy and corn is just rising rapidly. I was just at a conference out in Syracuse, Northeast Dairy Producers Association. And, you know, the big talk out there is, you know, the price of diesel. And I looked around the room out there and I'm like, just think of the gallons of diesel that go through this room. You know, the pricing of inputs is going to be huge. And all of our vendors in the state of Vermont that are selling feed, seed, and supplies are looking at carrying a lot more money on the books. And dairy farmers are looking at huge price increasing for this coming year, especially. Granted, the price of milk is higher on the conventional side. It isn't on the organic side, but it's still gonna be huge challenges for agriculture in Vermont and across the country.
Stuart, I don't know if you must know it by now, but we did do a little bill a week or so ago that the governor signed last week, picking up the premium on the on the insurance, the DMC program.
Sure.
And I hope that you get as many of your farmers signed up on that, because last year Vermont took in about $26 million. And it was you figure it out dollar wise, it was about a 10 to 1 return on the investment. And we got that passed through to help our guys, because I don't know why, because we just felt that it was a good deal to do. Whether the price of milk was going up when we got it passed, but now the cost of everything else behind it's going up, so it may pay off really good.
No, you're right. No, that's great. It's a good move.
But we gotta get them to sign up.
Yes.
Other questions for Stuart? No? Well, thank you very much, Stuart. And we know, I don't know if it's cousins, brothers, nieces, or nephews, but we know the Halls from up to Fairmont Farms.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
So then our final presenter is Mike Fresher, and Mike is there and he'll introduce himself.
Thanks, Margaret. Thanks, Stuart and Art, for your great presentations, and good morning, everyone. Mike Thresher, I work with, part of the NEFA group, Northeast Agribusiness Feed Alliance. I've been part of there for a year now, and been with Morrison Custom Feeds out of Barnet, Vermont, for the last 22 years. It's a family-owned feed company that's been in business for about 35 years, and in Barnet, Vermont. We have a feed store in St. Johnsbury as well for the last 10 years. Total employees, about 24 employees, and we sell bulk and bag feed throughout northern New England and a little bit of eastern New York. We manufacture 3 types of feeds, primarily organic. We just happen to be in the right place, the right time. 22 years ago, when the organic really started growing, and I kind of fell in love with it and was able to chase it throughout the state in New England and help it grow. We also carry conventional feed as well as a certified non-GMO line as well. There's been, a lot of talk about, the organic market to, as a survival for these small farms throughout Vermont. As we know, the Horizon Farms, they were, issued a detrimental letter last August, and through great work by the Vermont Task Force, which I'm proud to say I was able to be part of, we found pretty much a home for all that milk between Stonyfield and Organic Valley's announcement a week ago on bringing on another 80 farms. That being said, that market is pretty well saturated with milk. We can't really encourage any more farmers to go organic. There just isn't the market there for that milk at this point. So we certainly need the help for all our farms in the state. One thing we're waiting on is the final passage or implementation, I should say, of the origin of livestock rule from the federal government. Secretary Vilsack said that should be coming out either this month or next month and implemented. That'll level out the playing field for the organic industry and hopefully, tighten up our supply and help our organic farmers to some extent. As Stuart said, input costs are just climbing rapidly, almost by the minute lately. Organic grains is probably the worst situation right now, because mostly on organic soybean meal, our supply that we grow between US and Canada, the North American supply, only meets about 50% of our US needs. So we have to rely on imports from the world. And with shipping costs on these freight rates coming in, from overseas, it's just doubled, if not tripled, the price of the product just to meet up. And then logistics of getting it imported, stricter regulations, which is a good thing, is just creating a nightmare. Organic soybean meal prices is pretty much almost tripled in the last 12 months. So what's that mean for a dairy farmer on their grain prices? About 100% increase from where it was a year ago. And these farms haven't seen a price increase at all. The milk companies I've been in touch with every week, they're talking no price increases available this year. The market, they say, cannot take it. While we certainly appreciate the help and support of the dairy margin coverage program, especially what the state has just done and you folks have done, that really doesn't help the organic farmers as much. So I don't know. I guess a thought I would throw out there is, how do we maybe do a dairy margin coverage for organics to help them through this situation? Their price of grain is going to be 50% of their milk check, if not higher this year. Doesn't leave any money to pay the rest of the bills. Labor is expensive if you can have it, as Stuart mentioned. We need support for all our labor industry, transportation, fuel prices on the farm. I know these guys are going to have a huge sticker shock next month when they start filling fuel tanks, close to $5 a gallon for diesel to start spreading manure. It's just the death sentence. The Northeast Dairy Business Innovation Center, great news. We've got $20 million coming into that to help promote and expand some opportunities. Hopefully we can get money into expansions of our current processors, maybe develop some new ones. Be great to see, if there are new ideas or expansions, if the state can fully support these expansions, help with permit processing, fast track to permit processing so we can process the milk here in Vermont and New England and the Northeast instead of shipping it out further. It would really help our local markets as well. Another transportation, I'd like to touch base on that. There was an article that just popped up a couple of days ago out of Prince County, Wisconsin. A disaster was actually averted just last minute, but that county posted their roads, which we see here in Vermont, springtime, weight limits, but permits were not allowed to be issued for milk trucks for 50,000 pounds, 55,000 pounds or higher. So there was 14 farms in one county that was basically locked out of any milk pickup because they couldn't get the milk transportation in there to pick up these their bulk milk. They did last minute allow that to happen, but as Stuart and I both said, our right to farm laws, we need to get that in place here and have that part of that bill as well, because we've had a big change in the last 2 years of our people who live here in Vermont. A lot of new people have showed up, and these people who are not farm friendly, farm familiar, could very well put a regulation in place that could do the same thing on milk trucks, feed going out. And then lastly, I guess support of our RAPs, required ag practices. Art Stuart, Art's spoke very well to that. We've certainly seen some great numbers, reduction in phosphorus, nitrogen. As a big organic person too, I like the regenerative ag. There's been a lot of talk on that. That's great for soil health, climate health too, as well as precision ag. But if we do regenerative ag too, I think we can see some great reductions and promote the higher forage quality, less reliance on purchase inputs from feeds that we would need to help balance diets for optimal milk production and quality. So I'll stop there. I know we're running short on time, and if you folks have any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mike. Chris, did you start?
Well, yeah, Mr. Treasurer, you mentioned that the the program wouldn't be valuable for organic dairy, the margin program, and it's the first time I'd heard that. Can you just help me understand the details that makes that true?
The way the dairy margin coverage works is based on conventional prices, both grain and milk, and there's no relation to the organic market at all. Last year, because of and organic farmers are allowed to sign up, there's no discrimination there, and they were able to capture those payments made last year. Right now, with the predictions, milk prices look high, feed prices are high, but are climbing as well. So there may be a stimulated payment there, but there is no relation to the organic industry inputs at all in this coverage. So
So I see. So so it doesn't correlate to their costs. It's just that maybe they'll get some money if, I mean, if we're now, presumably they'd be motivated to pay up to sign up since they don't have to pay for it or we reimburse it, but I see what you're saying. Thank you. That's helpful.
right, for sure.
A couple of other issues, Mike, that we're working on, talking about trying to develop to put into a bill later this year. We talked a little on the weight limits and on back roads where milk trucks, feed trucks have to go. And also talked about milk, like milk companies are buying bigger trucks, tanker trucks instead of tractor trailer trucks rather than 10-wheeler trucks. And so some farms need bigger, wider driveways to get into. And we're talking and working on putting together some kind of a little help to fix both of those issues. Has that been a problem for your grain trucks getting into some farms?
Absolutely, yeah. There's some spots that we're stuck sending, we can't get a tractor trailer in, but even our triaxle straight trucks are having quite a problem getting in and out on some of these farms. It's, all the trucks have grown from where they were, 20, 30 years ago to what we have today. And some of these farms haven't seen any infrastructure change whatsoever.
Yeah. Other questions for Mike? No, well, if we'll think about ways to help those organic guys, I don't know if we looked at the whole dairy industry, like the big farms are only going to be able to recoup up to 5 million pounds on 5 million pounds of milk. And then they aren't going to get any help for the difference in the rest of it. We were thinking by keeping that volume at 5 million pounds where the beds have got set would help all the little guys, we wouldn't leave any of them out. And, our 28 organic guys that now may have a home, their price may not go up like regular organic milk. I don't know we don't know yet how that's going to work, but if you guys think that they need some help in some way, please let us know and we'll try to fix it.
Sure. Those new farms going on that new contract, my understanding, what I've been told is they're actually going to be paid 95% at the full organic milk price. And then 5% of their milk, they're going to take a $22 hundredweight hit on, just because the milk company can't utilize all of that milk at this point. So everybody's going to have a 5% surcharge, basically, at $22. So they're going to get less than $10 a hundredweight for organic milk.
Yeah.
5%.
And hopefully that 20 million, is for processing for outfits like yours. If you need to change something at the feed plant to make it cheaper and better and faster, it's for all those things. And I hope that if Stonyfield, if they need some money to help something that they're processing, I hope they apply and get some help so that we can make them robust and profitable and keep our organic guys in a good, healthy market.
True. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I know the house is anxiously waiting for you guys to go up here. So thanks a lot for your time and we appreciate it.
And thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah. Well, I thought the organic guys would be able to do.
Yeah,
okay with
I
it.
never even gave it a thought.
But that's,
That bill hasn't been signed, by the way. I think today's day 5. I was looking it up.
he said he signed it the other day, I thought.
This is
You mean,
679.
BAA.
Yeah, delivered to the governor March 10th.
Yeah.
So
like the BAA.
it's been a question. So 10th, and then the next day is day 1, right?
Yeah,
So 11th, 12th, he skipped Sunday, 14, 15, 16. So we're in day 5.
Well, yeah, he's, Anson and those guys wouldn't release that without his.
There's not a concern over
The dairy money.
no,
But they wouldn't release it yet. That's my point. I
Yeah,
don't
they
think,
wouldn't release that as being passed
well,
or,
I don't think they
Yeah.
have. They've been waiting for it.
no, they had a big.
I thought Diane Bonfeld made an announcement about it, press release kind of thing.
Forgot
I
to
didn't see
mention
that.
the
She didn't.
dairy task force or us for putting
Oh,
it
you think
together.
they took credit today?
Did
Well,
you ask
it's not
her?
law yet, according to the website. Which is
Interesting.
usually.
I haven't got, usually we get an email when he signs the bill. I haven't got an email that
Or,
signed
or
it.
be
True.
I wouldn't want the governor not to know that that came from us. So when you guys have your meeting with the governor, be sure and mention that.
I don't get to meet when Brian does.
Yeah, I'll see
They
him
don't
today
let
at
you
noon.
in?
No, I'll see him today at noon. I'll let him know.
No, he's fine. No, he's happy, I think, with our part anyways.
Yeah,
But anyways, so our driveway issue, I guess we could spend some time trying to figure out how many there might be. Diane said 3 or 4 or 5 the
something
other
like
day.
that, yeah.
But this guy said they've got some, see, and hopefully they're the same ones.
But we won't know that till the contract is signed, right? Wasn't there something that they had to wait for before they knew exactly who was, because some of them could have fallen into 2 or 3 similar
Right.
categories.
Well, they have to make
Category.
an investment.
But hopefully, next week that will get squared away or the week after. And, so we could, get that in.
All the secrets. underneath.
No, I left that in finance, so I thought there's more. I thought I brought it home.
Tight security system.
Yeah, they copied every page.
I
of it
mean,
anyway.
there's a lot of heavy stuff in that folder. I'm nervous about leaving that.
Where'd you leave it, finance?
Yeah. But anyway, so that was, good. I don't know about John and his issues.
A lot of those fixed. So there's a lot of those fixed.
And after we fix them all, there'll be some more.
I agree though on the current use stuff though, but.
Yeah, but how do you,
The largest single tax expenditure we've got,
50
60
60
million.
million.
I look at the other way.
Oh, I mean, I don't, look.
Largest tax we charge.
but the worst part, we're adding more stuff to it.
Well,
Like these, forever forest things.
well, in all honesty, from an investment perspective, open land, unless you can make money off of it, is pretty much worthless to an investor from a cash flow perspective. And so John's perspective says, I know I've got an argument here in Sound City, I own highest tax 300 apartment building in City. He goes, because you got that nice lawn. I go, that doesn't pay rent.
Yeah, but
So why do I gotta pay too much tax on it? You won't even build anything on it, and it doesn't pay rent. It's useless to me. It's actually, I gotta mow it.
you
Makes your
never
land
lose
develop.
money buying land.
Well,
You tell me.
there are
one-
some people that.
Lose money buying land.
Yeah, you buy high like right now and turn
Yeah.
around next year and the bottom drops out and you sell it, but.
No, they don't make any more of it, that's for sure, but think
In Vermont, I think that's pretty fair, pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've invested a lot in preservation.
I wouldn't wanna buy shoreline property.
My dad bought 200 acres. He didn't buy it. My dad traded in 1945, maybe,
Right after the war.
44.
Oh, okay.
During the war.
Well,
Right at the
when we
transition.
moved, see, my dad was down there working in Connecticut, in the ammunition thing, because he couldn't get drafted or couldn't sign up. But then, so in 43 or 44, they moved home because his dad had a sister in California that was really in bad shape and they wanted to go see it. So anyways, that winter, this guy named Jay came down and had this 200-acre parcel of land with a road that went basically all the way around it, with the exception of the east end. But on both sides and the west end, road all the way around it, and a ball field, baseball field. Yeah. And my dad said he wanted to buy 2 cows. And my dad said, well, I don't really want to sell you 2 cows. He said, I'll tell you what I will do, because they all like playing baseball and shit. I'll trade you, you can take any 2 cows out of the barn that you want for those 200 acres.
What the heck of a trade.
And the guy, well, for the guy with the wanting the 2 cows it was. And because, I mean, we were taught all of us at a young age, you never lose money with land. No 2 cows are gonna die in 4, 5, 6 years anyway. So my granddad came home, made the deal, gave him Billy ass hell over trading the 2 best cows in the barn for that damn ball field. He called it a damn ball field. So all you guys want to do now is go up there and play baseball. Well, anyways, long story short, always kept. And we just sat there and go out and cut some timber once in a while, but no maple. Well, anyways, when my granddad got around dividing stuff up, the 2 sisters out of all the crew, there's 2 girls. Well, they never seemed to have gotten much or anything. And so he said, well, I'll give you each half of that. So they each got 100 acres and they sold it for like $200,000 each. So 400 grand for 2 cows, but it took 60 years, but still.
What happened to the damn ball field?
Oh shit, they played ball up
What do you
there
pay on
for years.
taxes for that land for those 60
And,
years?
but one of the aunt's son built a house where the ball field was.
Nice clear little field.
But, no, you never lose money.
Well,
buying land.
what do you pay for tax in those 60 years?
That's the thing, yeah.
And then if you'd have taken that tax money and put it in the stock market, which one would he have been ahead of?
Up in that's what happened. His dad lost every cent he had, and when the crash came, and so there was no more playing in that shit.
You only lose money in the stock market when you sell. You don't lose unless the business goes bankrupt or you sell.
No,
It's like
you
real
gotta-
estate.
you
Price goes
gotta
down, but you still own it. You don't
Right,
lose
yeah.
until-
Ride it along.
Actually, buy more. When everyone else is selling, that's the time to buy.
Yeah, buy when they're selling.
When everyone's buying, that's the time to sell.
My wife's always been very protective of her money.
Yeah.
I mean, her money and my money, but it's really our money. But she has her money. Well, I mean, I've earned it all, but she has hers and I have.
She has her, she's got to pull the recording. Take off.
And so a few years back, the market kind of was going.
Are we still live? Do we need to be live on
Was
this?
kind of going the other way, like now.
Bobby, do we still need to be live?
Uh,
Are we done meeting for the day?
yeah,
Okay.
and, yeah, you can take